Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating 19th century text that asks us to get honest with ourselves, to really look at what it means when we say we believe something. So let's just start with that question. Think about it. When you say you believe in something, what is that feeling? Is it just a gut instinct, something you feel in your bones? Or is it more of a calculated conclusion you've arrived at after a lot of thought? Well, the author of this text argues that we're actually using one single word, belief, to talk about two totally different things happening in our minds. He calls them simple assent and certitude. And figuring out that difference, well, that's everything. Okay, so here's the basic breakdown. On one side, you have simple assent. This is that instant, gut level, yep, that's true feeling. It's not something you've reasoned your way to, you just accept it, and it's powerful enough to make you act right away. Then, on the other side, there's certitude. This is the belief you hold after you've done the homework, after you've questioned, researched, and argued your way to a conclusion. It's the belief of your head, not just your gut. But it's not always so black and white. The author points out this really interesting middle ground he calls interpretive certitude. Think about a belief you've had your entire life, one that's so foundational you've never even thought to question it. It feels as solid as certitude, and you have this quiet confidence that if anyone ever challenged you on it, you could easily defend it and turn it into that full-blown, reasoned-out belief. So, why does this distinction even matter? What's the real-world difference between these two states of mind? Well, it all boils down to a fundamental trade-off, a choice between what these two types of belief are actually good for. And this quote just nails the whole idea perfectly. I want you to think about a sword for a second. Simple assent, that's the sharp, cutting edge. It's what makes the sword effective in the moment. Certitude, on the other hand, the intellectual confirmation, that's the weight of the steel behind the blade. It's what gives the swing momentum and power. You really need both, but they do very different jobs. Simple assent is an absolute engine for action. If you have a vivid, gut-level conviction that the cholera is in the midst of us, you don't pause to write an essay about it, you act. It's this kind of unshakable, instinctive confidence that the author says fueled incredible acts, like those of the primitive martyrs. It's belief in its purest, most operative form. Certitude, though, that's all about the long game. It's about endurance. It gives you the intellectual stability to weather decades of questions and doubts. This is the kind of belief that underpins deep, persistent habits, like a lifetime of prayer or long-term self-sacrifice, precisely because it has already wrestled with the hard questions and come out the other side. So here's the trade-off in a nutshell. Assent is impulsive, it drives action, but it can also be swayed. Certitude is intellectual, it provides that deep persistence. But, and this is a huge but, its great weakness is that the very act of thinking about it can let doubt creep in. And that leads us to a really fascinating paradox. Okay, so this brings us to what might be the most counterintuitive and maybe the most challenging idea in this whole text. The notion that being too thoughtful about your beliefs can actually end up damaging them. And here is that paradox. To achieve certainty, what do you have to do? You have to ask questions, you have to analyze, you have to consider all the counter-arguments. But by doing that, you're opening the door to doubts that maybe would have never even occurred to you otherwise. The path to certainty is kind of haunted by the ghosts of all the arguments you had to defeat to get there. The author uses this incredible phrase to describe this, muscae volitantes. It's a Latin term that literally means flying flies, and it's actually the medical name for those little floaters you sometimes see in your vision. He says that for someone with an intellectually certain mind, those old questions and doubts can become just like that. These annoying, ever-present specks that you can't get rid of, clouding your vision even when you know they aren't real. And what are these flying flies? They're the biggest, heaviest, most profound questions we can ask. Where does evil come from? Why are we here without our permission? How can something have no beginning? If there's an all-loving God, why is there so much suffering? Once you've seriously grappled with these, even if you find answers that satisfy your intellect, they can just linger. They hang around in the back of your mind as a permanent reminder of the limits of what we can know for sure. So let's bring all this home. How do we take this framework and actually apply it to our own lives, to the things that we ourselves hold to be true? It seems like our beliefs often go on a journey, right? Most of us start with a simple assent, something we accept without much thought. Then, maybe something challenges us, or we just get curious and we start to seek confirmation. We do the work, we build our intellectual case, and we finally arrive at certitude. But the cost, the price of admission, can be having to live with the echoes of all those questions we had to ask along the way. So this is really the question you have to ask yourself. When you think about your most important, most foundational beliefs, what's really driving them? Is it the sharp, energetic, immediate power of simple assent? Or is it the stable, enduring, but maybe slightly more haunted state of certitude? And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. This journey from an unthinking belief to an intellectual one, it's not free. There's a risk. You might introduce questions that never fully go away. The author doesn't say one path is better than the other, but he forces us to consider, is the stability you get from certitude worth giving up the perfect, untroubled peace of just believing? And that is a question only you can answer for yourself.